We are what we repeatedly do.
Change doesn't just happen at this level of behavior, but what you have to change the environment.
Make a damn schedule and stick to it.
What's up, Believe Nation? It's Evan. This channel is designed to be a part of your daily success routine and help you believe in your Michael Jordan level talent. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn how to use the power of habits to achieve success. Also, if you want to learn what Mel Robbins, Peter Voogd, Tim Ferriss, and others have to say about building unstoppable confidence, check out my 254 Confidence series, where every day for the next 254 days, I will send you a morning video for free to help you build your confidence. The link is in the description below.
When you set goals, when you have an intention on something that you want to change about your life, your brain helps you.
A lot of the anxiety that we feel is actually due to using words that are not defined very well.
And if you don't have confidence, you're always going to find a way to lose in entrepreneurship.
Let's kick it off with rule number 1, get good habits with Dan Lok.
We are what we repeatedly do. Human beings, we are creatures of habits. You notice that you kind of do the same thing, the same routine over and again and again and again. See, getting rich is not an act. It is a habit. So it is staying poor. It's also not an act. It's not something that just happens to you. It is a habit. So let me teach you the 3 best habits of rich people. The very first habit of rich people, and that is they count their money. Poor people don't count their money. They get a paycheck, they deposit the paycheck, they spend the money. They have no idea what their expenses are. They have no idea how the money flows. You notice poor people, JOB, they have a job and wait till maybe once a year when they file the tax return, the taxes that are owing, is how much you have to pay. They look at the numbers, they don't even look at the numbers. They just, okay, all right, that's how much I need to pay, file tax return, and that's it. Look at it maybe once a year. Rich people, we don't do that. We look at our numbers regularly. We are financially literate. I'm not a numbers person, don't get me wrong, okay? I'm a concept guy, okay? I'm a big picture thinker. I'm a visionary. But I am very, very careful and I'm very aware with how my money is flowing. Habit number 2 is they pay themselves first. Now, you've heard of this before. Oh yeah, I know, Dan, I've heard of this before. You gotta pay yourself. Do you know actually what that means? Paying yourself doesn't mean buying yourself a car. It doesn't mean taking that vacation. It doesn't mean that you go blow money on entertainment. Oh yeah, I'm paying money myself. No, that's paying everybody else. When you're buying a car, you're paying the automotive company. When you're buying a house, you are paying the bank. When you are traveling, you are paying the traveling agency. You're paying the hotels. You're paying the flight company, the airplane company. Paying yourself meaning that you put your money aside and you invest your money. Now, I'm not talking about being frugal. If you know anything about me, you know my work. I'm not talking about being frugal and being cheap. I'm talking about taking a percentage of your income and putting that aside, pay yourself first, and save it, and then you invest it. Habit of rich people number 3, and that is rich people are constantly improving their earning ability. Because you might be thinking, Dan, okay, I want to pay myself first, but I'm not making enough money. I'm only making a few thousand a month. I couldn't even afford to pay my bills. How am I going to pay myself first? First of all, you got to have the habit of paying yourself first. If you're not paying yourself first, even a tiny small percentage, when you're making $30, $40, $50, $60, $100,000 a year, I guarantee you when you're making $1 million, $2 million a year, you're not paying yourself. It is a habit that I'm talking about. And in order to do that, in order to be able to, every single year, to be able to pay yourself more and more and more and put it into investments, you need to improve your earning ability. You need to find ways how you can add value to the marketplace, how to add more value to the marketplace. So every single year, your income is going up every year. If you've been working in the real world and you have your own business and your income kind of stays flat for the last 2, 3, 5 years, then shame on you. It means you're not learning. It means you're not thinking. It means you're not growing. Every single year, your income You have to strive to improve that, your earning ability. And rich people, we're always constantly looking for ways to improve our earning ability, but also looking for ways to add leverage, to apply leverage into what we do.
Rule number 2, set up your environment for success with Jim Quick.
A lot of people always want to usually make a change on behavior. They want to get themselves to work out. They want to get themselves to meditate. They want to get themselves to read more each day. They want to get themselves to X, right? Or they want to stop some behavior. They want to stop smoking. They want to stop eating this food. They want to stop, I always tell people, stop checking your phone the first hour of the day.
I love that.
And that's like sacred time for me, because I think that if you want to be an elite mental performer or, real life superhero, you don't want to start off by checking the phone. We talked about this in the past because you're training yourself to be reactive, right? You're getting your dopamine, you're frying your nervous system with all these likes, shares, comments, and everything else like that.
You've said, if I'm not mistaken, you sell your sovereignty.
We do.
If you start by checking your phone. I love that so much.
Because you're reacting and firefighting to everyone's everything everyone wants. So you're not really you're not living, you've heard this many times, right? If you want to, you win the first hour of the day to win the rest, you win the day, right? And so anything you want to stop, so like say you want to stop checking your phone, right, in the morning, then there's certain, that's a behavior, right? But there's so many other elements to be able to change because most behaviors don't stick, right? And so what I'm thinking about when I want to transform or transcend or make a real positive change, I'm looking at all the other areas of ourself. So I'm looking at, for example, our environment. Are people setting up their environment to win? So change doesn't just happen at this level of behavior, but you have to change the environment. So for example, if you want to stop eating a certain food, it helps to be able to have not have that food in your home, right? So you change the environment. If you want to read more, it helps to help set up your environment where you have the books readily available, where you're going to read it because they perform, how I approach habit change is this area of motivation and this trigger, right? You want to trigger it to help remind you to do the behavior, right? So are you setting up the environment in a way that triggers the behavior that you want? But not only the environment is like the when and the where, but it's also the behavior is also the capabilities, because a lot of people want to change a behavior, but they're not training in the abilities. What I love a lot about your work and your passion is the area of being able to those acquisition, new abilities for yourself, and also that could also benefit the rest of the world. But most people aren't training those habits and those capabilities.
Rule number 3, tweak your habits with Mel Robbins.
I realize that I need to have a level of focus and a level of intentionality that I have not yet cultivated in my life. That there's still that I do, that I put in the way, that was fine when I was operating and achieving at this level, but now I want to go to this level. And so what are those things? Getting up earlier, being a complete hawk about how I'm spending my time and attention. That in the mornings when I'm with my family, literally being hyper-focused on just them so that I'm present with them. And then confession, I'll literally work for 25 minutes and then the ADD kicks in and then I'll find myself folding laundry for 20 minutes because I allow myself to get distracted. And see, that's the thing about habits and the levels of success that you get to. That when you recognize that jumping to the next level that you want to get to is nothing more than just tweaking your habits a little bit, that it's really that simple, you will start to be able to have quantum leaps. And I'm realizing that I have amazing habits, but they have gotten me to here. And if I want to get to the next level, it's going to require a level of focus and intentionality that I haven't demanded of myself before. No drinking during the week, being super, super focused on the stuff that's really important. Probably hiring somebody full-time to be a full-time assistant to help me stay organized and focused in terms of scheduling and weeding through all the incoming requests. I think it's just about that, about this sort of maniacal focus on things that are important. Now is the time. And what's cool is you can make it happen anytime in your life. If there's some jump that you want to make, look, I'm an extraordinarily productive person. I've accomplished a tremendous amount in the last 3 years. But what it's going to take for me to get to the next level and not destroy the people around me with my stress and be an amazing leader and be an amazing mother and be an awesome wife and actually be an incredible businesswoman is a level of focus that I have never required of myself.
Rule number 4, break your old habits with Joe Dispenza.
We have a huge frontal lobe, and it's 40% of our entire brain. And most people, when they have a thought, they just think that that's the truth. And I think one of my greatest realizations in my own journey was just because you have a thought doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So if you think 60 to 70,000 thoughts in one day, and we do, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts as the day before, and you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, your life's not going to change very much, because the same thought leads to the same choice leads to the same behavior creates the same experience, and the same experience produces the same emotion. And so then the act of becoming conscious of this process to begin to become more aware of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. It's called metacognition. And so then, why is that important? Because the more conscious you become of those unconscious states of mind and body, the less likely you're going to go unconscious during the day. And that thought is not going to slip by your awareness unchecked, because it means to know thyself. The word meditation means to become familiar with. So as you become familiar with the thoughts, the behaviors, and the emotions of the old self, you're retiring that old self. As you fire and wire new thoughts and condition the body into a new emotional state, if you do that enough times, it'll begin to become familiar to you. So it's so important, just like a garden. If you're planting a garden, you got to get rid of the weeds. You got to take the plants from the past year and you got to pull them out. The rocks that sift to the top that are like our emotional blocks, they have to be removed. The soil has to be tenderized and broken down. We have to make room to plant a new garden. So primarily, we learn the most about ourselves and others when we're uncomfortable. Because the moment you move into that uncomfortable state, normally a program jumps in. When that program jumps in, it's because the person doesn't want to be in the present moment and engage it consciously. So when you teach people how to do that with a meditative process, it turns out that when they're in their life, they're less likely to emotionally react. They're less likely to be so rigid and believe the thoughts they were thinking. They're more aware of when they go unconscious back into a habit, and that is what starts the process of change. And so we have to unlearn before we relearn. We have to break the habit of the old self before we reinvent a new self. We have to prune synaptic connections and sprout new connections. We have to unfire and unwire and refire and rewire. We have to unmemorize emotions that are stored in the body, and then recondition the body to a new mind and to a new emotion, like deprogram and reprogram. That's the act, and it's a two-step process.
Yeah, I like the way that you call that out as an action. There was another thing that you said that I thought was really powerful about how insights themselves are essentially inert. They don't do anything. What then do we do with an insight? How do we take a breakthrough moment and make sure that it's not just a breakthrough moment? Like, I guarantee people watching right now are having like 100 aha moments. For sure, that was definitely the case for me as I was researching you. And when you said that, I was like, and that's the danger, that you have the aha and then nothing.
Yeah, and it is a danger, because then people will shrink back into mediocrity, and they'll use the insight to excuse them from taking a leap. They'll say, yeah, I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. Yeah, my father was really overbearing. He was a perfectionist. That's why I am the way I am. People, they come up with stuff to excuse themselves. The insight is actually giving them permission to stay limited. And it's an amazing idea, because they'll say to you that they really want to get over their anxiety. But let's take your ex-husband, let's put him in a straitjacket, let's duct tape him and shoot him to the moon. Now what? I mean, what are you going to do now? You still have to make those changes. And so then when the person's enemy dies, or something shifts in their life, and that person's gone, they'll find another person to hate. This is just how we function as human beings. We just slide another reason to feel those emotions. So I think when people start to understand this, I think knowledge is power, but knowledge about yourself is self-empowerment.
Rule number 5, make a schedule with Jordan B. Peterson.
Make a damn schedule and stick to it. Okay, so what's the rule with the schedule? It's not a bloody prison. That's the first thing that people do wrong. They say, well, I don't like to follow a schedule. Well, it's like, well, what kind of schedule are you setting up? Well, I have to do this, then I have to do this, then I have to do this, and then I just go play video games, because who wants to do all these things that I have to do? It's like, wrong. Set the damn schedule up so that you have the day you want. That's the trick. It's like, okay, I've got tomorrow. If I was going to set it up so it was the best possible day I could have, practically speaking, what would it look like? Well, then you schedule that. And obviously, there's a bit of responsibility that's going to go along with that, because if you have any sense, one of the things that you're going to insist upon is that at the end of the day, you're not in worse shape than you were than at the beginning of the day, right? Because that's a stupid day. If you have a bunch of those in a row, you just dig, you dig yourself a hole and then you bury yourself in it. It's like, sorry, that's just not a good strategy. It's a bad strategy. So maybe 20% of your day has to be responsibility and obligation, or maybe it's more than that, depending on how far behind you are. But even that, you can ask yourself, okay, well, I've got these responsibilities. I have to schedule the damn things in. What's the right ratio of responsibility to reward? And you can ask yourself that, just like you'd negotiate with someone who is working for you. It's like, okay, you got to work tomorrow. Okay, so I want you to work tomorrow. And you might say, okay, well, what are you going to do for me that makes it likely that I'll work for you? Well, you could ask yourself that, So maybe you do an hour of responsibility and then you play a video game for 15 minutes. I don't know, whatever turns your crank, man. But, you have to negotiate with yourself and not tyrannize yourself. Like you're negotiating with someone that you care for, that you would like to be productive and have a good life. And that's how you make the schedule. It's like, and then you look at the day and you think, well, if I had that day, that'd be good. Great. And you're useless and horrible, so you'll probably only hit it with about 70% accuracy, but that beats the hell out of 0, right? And if you hit it even with 50% accuracy, another rule is, well, aim for 51% the next week, or 50.5% for God's sake, or because you're going to hit that position where things start to loop back positively and spiral you upward.
Rule number 6, create routines with Tim Ferriss.
So whether it's Jocko Willink, you mentioned, retired Navy SEAL commander, used to be in charge of all West Coast training for the SEAL teams, which is intense. Highly, highly decorated. Whether it's Jocko saying discipline equals freedom, or you look at, say, some of the writers or musicians or directors or others in the book, across pretty much all of them, you find that they find freedom in constraints. So what does that mean? Sounds kind of weird. Also sounds very, sounds like an oxymoron, right? And what I mean by that is all of these people have routines. They have set recipes that they repeat on a daily and weekly basis so that they are not making a lot of extraneous decisions about mundane things. And they also recognize that we all have our lesser selves, our impulses. I love chocolate croissants. If I left my entire schedule to whim, I would just eat chocolate croissants all day long. I love them. They're incredible. And I still do have them once a week. I have my cheat day and I'm allowed to do what I want. So I let my monkey mind and my lesser self just go nuts. But these people all have typically, these are folks we might be inclined to think of as superheroes. And maybe Jocko's a superhero. But the vast majority have one or two strengths. They might not even be the best in the world, but one or two strengths they combine in a really unique way. And they build habits around those strengths. And then they have 1,000 other weaknesses. But the habits and routines are what help them from going off the rails. And this is really encouraging. This should be really encouraging because the people we see on magazine covers that we might idolize and feel we could never possibly emulate because they have it all figured out. They have no insecurities. They wake up every morning and with a mental karate chop, they just master the day. That's not how it works. I know these people. Almost everyone in this book, certainly on the podcast, I've become friends with hundreds of these people. Not true. They have tons of, not everyone, I don't want to speak for everyone, but tons of neuroses, tons of terrible self-defeating habits. And the safety net they create is habits and routines. That's why Jocko, in part, says discipline equals freedom. Okay, so you have trouble waking up in the morning? No problem. You want to stage, this is something that Jocko does, takes his clothing, prepares, gets his sort of coffee ready to brew, clothing on the floor for the workout, right next to his bed, prepared the night before. So there are no decisions, there are no opportunities to make mistakes between him opening his eyes and Jocko working out. And you find this across everybody.
And rule number 7, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is enhance your good habits with Gaur Gopal Das.
I really want all of you to truly introspect. if you decided something in the last year, 2017, and did you truly work on it through the year, and where do you stand today? Throughout the day today till we meet the next morning, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, I want all of you to introspect. This one word, introspection, to see if you've actually worked on what you decided, or were you a victim of resolution, dissolution, and no solution. Ladies and gentlemen, I often say that habits are of three kinds. The first is our good habits. And when we talk about good habits, for example, saying a thank you, just as an example, or saying a sorry, being hospitable, courteous, kind is a good habit. And very often, it's just a habit though. Very often we could say a thank you or even say a sorry and not even mean it. We go into the autopilot mode, and that's why we call it a habit. It's just in the autopilot mode. We say thank you, we don't mean it. We may say a sorry, we may not mean it. And therefore, when it comes to good habits, in the year 2018, let us consciously enhance them. Not just sustain and enhance those habits, but consciously enhance those habits, which is basically, for example, we say a thank you, we mean a thank you as well. For example, if we say a sorry, we mean a sorry as well. They're good habits. And you could identify your own good habits and make sure that we do not continue them in an autopilot mode in the year 2018. So with the good habits, we don't want to be in the autopilot mode, but we want to consciously enhance the quality of those good habits as we enter the year 2018.
Now I've got a really special bonus clip with Peter Voogd on how to create good rituals that I think you're gonna really enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Time to move from just watching another video to actually taking action in your business. So here we go. Question number 1, what habit do you need to change right now? Number 2, what can you change in your environment to help you? And number 3, how can you make it a part of your regular routine?
What I realized, Evan, is inspiration is really short term and doesn't really last past the activity producing it. Habits are what drive people's action. I go to seminars, and I mean, I've spent a lot of money on personal development because you want to invest back in yourself. And if you go to seminars, people spend like 2, 3, 5, 10 grand. And literally 5% of them, if you catch them 2 weeks later, are the exact same person, because they get inspired, but they don't put it into execution. And what happens is they go back to who they were. So what I would tell people is make sure you have a daily routine that sets you up for success. So one, my prize fighter routine, a morning routine that sets you up for success. First of all, there's a lot of stuff on morning routines. That's fine to have like a bunch of morning routine stuff, but I'm all about outcomes. So the whole purpose of a morning routine is 2 things: to get you in a better state of mind, to get you confident and courageous to take on the day, and 2, to have intention and to know exactly what you're doing that day. So if you just have rituals, and here's what's cool, every frustration or every kind of failure is because there's no rituals or systems in place, right? So you got to have systems for each area of your life. So for mindset, you got to have a ritual every week. For productivity, you got to have a ritual every week. So let me give you an example. So if you want a mindset ritual, you have to have non-negotiables in your schedule that you do no matter what, no matter how you feel. You start making decisions based off standards and values, not emotions or feelings.
Raise your standard.
Apple at the core, its core value is that we believe that people with passion can change the world for the better.
Not one drop of my self-worth depends on your acceptance of me.
If you guys like this video and want to learn how to stop wasting your life away, check out the video next to me. I think you're going to enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
99.9% of the people that watch or listen to this content are living in the middle.